Today we're going to talk about prayer. What is prayer? Prayer is the setting forth of intention with pure focus. And then, it is the settling into the vibration of pure openness with the vibration of faith in order to receive. The ingredient of asking and then moving into the space of pure trust and belief that it will come so as to receive is such a powerful thing that affects the fabric of reality. When many people talk about prayers being answered, they're talking about miracles. But those things which we call miracles are not unnatural, they are natural. The reason they are natural is because the precursor to this physical life is thought. Thought trumps physical laws every single time. And so if you are going to focus in such a way and with such purity and such trust that you are allowing the creative force to flow through you, you can bend all the physical laws you see before you. That which we call a miracle is natural. What are you praying to when you ask? You're praying to you. You're praying to the source self that still exists, which is the larger, more expansive part of you. You are praying to what you would call God or source, which is also yourself. You are indivisible from it, which is why it has such a good idea of what it is that you want. When you have an idea of God being outside of you, prayer becomes this movement of prostration. It's asking in such a way that you're giving the power over to something else, and there's a possibility that something else might decide you're worthy enough to give it to you. That is not the way that real prayer works. When real prayer is done properly, you acknowledge the fact that you are the creator. You focus in such a pure way that you are allowing that God force energy that is you to affect the fabric of your own reality. You're not asking someone else to do it for you. If it feels good, you can address prayer in the way where you are focusing at the universe in terms of this larger aspect of you. But the minute that you make it divisible from that which you are, you lose your creative power. You lose your ability to really trust that it's going to be given to you, and it's not about deserving or not deserving what you're asking for. There is no problem with prayer. Prayer is amazing, and it is beneficial when it's used properly, instead of in an aspect of prostration. The problem is never with prayer and with asking. The problem with prayers is with focus. When your prayers are not answered, it is never because this universe is withholding them. The law of this universe is ask and it is given. Not ask and it might be possibly given if it's determined that you've done something good enough in your life to deserve that thing to happen. Ask and it is given. That is the law of this universe. But the law of attraction, which is the most powerful law in the universe, states that only that which is a vibrational match can share the same space. Only that which can come into your reality is a vibrational match to where you stand and what your focus is. This is incredibly important when we're talking about prayer, because a lot of people say my prayers weren't answered, and it's because of the way in which you were focusing when you were asking for that prayer to be received. Beliefs must match outcomes, regardless of how much you're asking for it. Everything must come into a reality according to belief. So if you're asking for love, but that asking for love is coming from constant focus on how unworthy you are, constant focus on how much you don't love yourself, constant focus on how much people don't love you, then you are still holding yourself in a vibrational tug of war. And that tug of war makes it so that even though the universe answered your request immediately, you can't even receive the manifestation of what you've asked for. Many people think that what they're praying for is what they want, but what they're actually focused on is what they don't want. These people are simply using their words to ask the universe. But the universe does not respond to words, and it does not respond to action, it responds to thought. So if you're focused on something, that is what is going to come into your experience. That feeling of neediness or that feeling of desperation when you're in prayer means that you are focused on what you don't want. My favorite analogy for this is the analogy of the shark. If you're in the water and you fear that you're going to get attacked by a shark, while you're swimming to get away from something, please let me get away from the shark. Please let me get away from the shark. Your focus, as you can just see, is on shark. So you're a perfect vibrational match to that which you're asking for, which is what your attention is placed on. Another analogy I really like to demonstrate the idea of prayers is you'll meet a lot of people who, when you're in the hospitals, you'll see them lined up around a bed and they're praying for their loved one not to die. But the reason it feels so desperate is because they're focused on the death. And so quite often when they're praying for their loved one not to die, their loved one dies. There is no vibrational antinote in this universe. There is no such thing as not or don't. Anything you are focused on will come into your experience. So in that kind of a circumstance, what you should be focused on and in pure trust of is the improved state, the final end state of what you're asking for, as if it already is. So if you're praying for a relationship, put yourself in the space while you're praying of receiving that, not of the desperation to get out of where you stand. So for a moment I want to talk to you about what is happening exactly when we see these things like miracles. So let's say there's a woman who has a car, and that car rolls over the top of her 3-year-old child. Now we know, based on physics, that no woman is going to be able to lift a 1,000-pound car off of her child, and yet it happens. It happens quite a bit. The reason is, in that pure moment, that very moment, the woman sees the car on top of her child. Her focus does not even have time to jump to the space of what if I can't. There is so much adrenaline, so much pure focus going through this person that she is purely focused on one thing and one thing only. There is no split focus. The focus is getting the car off of the child. And when the focus is that pure, the fabric of reality must shift. And so it happens, and we call it a miracle. And the rest of us in the universe, from an objective perspective, say, that's exactly how this is meant to work here. If you have pure focus, it doesn't matter what you learned in school, it doesn't matter what you learned in science class. Everything in this universe will shift according to your pure focus and thought. The way to ensure that a prayer offers you up results is to believe that it will. Everything is coming according to your beliefs, and so your beliefs must shift if the prayer is to occur. The person, even in their aspect of praying to a God which exists outside of them, the person who trusts so fully that it is going to become the minute they ask for it is the one that's going to line up with the results. That's just how it is. And so if you're praying and praying for something that you really believe can't happen, it can't happen. Yet again, not because the universe is not making it happen, but because you can't even put yourself in the vibrational space to receive it. It's sort of like a radio channel. You can ask for a specific channel to be received, but until you tune your dial to the exact radio station that vibrates at the same frequency as the radio station you're asking for, you can't receive it through your antenna. And so the universe is always broadcasting that particular wavelength. You have to tune your dial to that frequency in order to receive it. And we do that by shifting our beliefs. In order for any of this creation type energy to really work for us in this universe, including prayers, which is a form of creation, what we really need to do is to shift into the aspect of believing before we see. You are allowing yourself to sit in an aspect of powerlessness when you say, I need proof to believe something. Because the way the third dimension was designed is, you broadcast forth thought. That thought, which is thought so often, then becomes a thing. And then it's that byproduct which you're looking at and calling proof, which is why no one can ever agree, because everyone's reality is subjective with that kind of model. And so, if you would like to believe that you're a lovable person, you have to begin thinking thoughts along those lines before you manifest any kind of proof that that is true. Until you are willing to shift your thoughts into that of, I will look for a way to believe before I see, your life will remain less than satisfactory. Your life will be more of what is, because you will be more focused on the proof of what is, and you will get more of what is. For you to shift your reality, for you to get these things which you want, for your prayers to be answered, you need to be able to incrementally talk your way into believing before you see, and that will be your key to seeing.